Hi there, and welcome to Discussions of Exploration. You're here with your host, Sabrina Ben Salmi, and welcome back for another episode. Today, I'm joined with a very special guest called Philip Chan. Anyone that knows me and my family, they would know that Philip Chan works very closely with Trey Sean, but also not to leave out the little ones, because recently Philip Chan started to do some mathematical work with my younger ones as well, so they're part of the fun. But today we're here to talk about a title that Philip Chan came up with, Find the Genius Within. And I really am excited about this. Why? Because I'm going to provide a platform for Philip to talk about the stuff that he does behind the scenes. A lot of his elite coaching and mentoring takes place under the radar, and Philip's going to share with you some key aspects that he does with regards to entrepreneurs, successful business owners, and even just individuals embarking on that dream, the desire that they've always wanted to share but not quite sure where to get started. So if you don't know, Philip is mostly known for a lot of his math expertise, but for those that know him very well, they would know that Philip is actually a coach and a mentor in the following areas: book mastery, so it's taking your book from concept to actualization; branding, taking you from zero to hero, so from the invisible to be invisible; and then finally coaching, finally confidence. I love that. Finally confidence. So Philip helps to take those ones that are the silent whisperers in the room, those ones that have such a huge message to share with the world, and the ones that are the self-doubters, and he really helps them to come out of their shell to start sharing that with the world. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome Philip Chan to the show. Thank you so much for joining me, Philip.
Well, thank you, Sabrina, for having me on our show. And it's really nice to have a chat. This is an area that I think you're probably one of the first person ever got me talking on this area. Normally, I don't really talk this in public very much, except by glancing. But I do quite a lot of this actually behind the scene.
Absolutely. So you're in for a treat, listeners. Really, grab a notepad and pen, pencil, whatever it is, take some notes, because Philip Chan has been doing this behind the scenes, like he says, behind the curtains. He is, in fact, responsible, because of the clients he works with. He cannot obviously disclose some of their IDs, but the fact is that he works with some very influential people, some people that you will know very prominent in the personal development world and in business. And Philip is responsible for getting their book from concept into reality. So, Philip, could you share with the listeners a little bit about your journey, so they get to know, for those that don't know you and never heard of you before, could you tell them a little bit about who is Philip?
Well, obviously, my so-called fame name is the 10-second maths expert in the world today. And when I actually do my workshops, I normally do about 19 workshops in a year over the last 45 years. And people said, oh, yeah, it's all right for you. You're good at maths. But that's not the reality. The reality is that back at school, I was actually bottom in every single subject. One of the school I was in, there was 10 sets. I was in set 10, the bottom 3 of the bottom set. And that was not a very nice thing. But I was determined to be better myself. So to cut a very long story short, eventually I broke the mold and got to improve. And over time, I did my research on lots of different techniques that's been around for hundreds of years. And in fact, one or two techniques are over 1,000, almost 2,000 years old. But I'm not 2,000 years old, by the way. Yeah, I know Easter, Jesus 2,000 years old, but I'm just a plain person, so So over time, I discovered these wonderful methods, and I started doing it and sharing it, and people say, "God, how do you do that?" So over a long period of time, at least a good 20 years, then I built up the reputation. And the reason I'm called the 10-second maths expert is because once I share with people the technique, they can actually be able to do that in under 10 seconds. And sometimes it would take me between half a minute to about 5 minutes to show someone that. And I normally get a result between half a minute to 5 minutes. And the key thing is that the genius is always within yourself. all I've done is then unlock that confidence. Also, I've gone to 2 schools that were in trouble, and they just had no maths teachers. And one school I taught the whole year 11. There's 240 kids roughly, and divide them to 2 sets of 5 classes. So I have 5 classes at once, going the complete range from the bottom set right across the top. And within roughly 7 weeks, have done enough to actually improve the GCSE result for that school by 17%.
Wow.
And then another school that I had to combine 2 classes, roughly about over 70 pupils, and they have all got through with A star to A, except for 5 pupils actually just missed the grade C by a few marks. But again, the question is how on earth that could happen, because I didn't set the exam for them. All I did is did my sort of teaching, but the genius has always been in, the ability is always inside. I just helped to build up a little confidence, and they did the rest. In fact, recently, before the lockdown, there was a pupil I worked with last year for about 2 months, roughly about 2 months. So one, like a normal private tuition, an hour a week for about 2 months, and then it was done. So he felt, he was confident enough, so he didn't need to actually carry on. So, which is good that, and he was in year 9. At that time when we worked together, he was in set 3 of his school. And then I actually had a message from him via his mum, said he's gone from set 3 to set 1.
Wow.
And then, he just had a test a few days before, so a week before, and he's now in the top 10 of set 1.
Gosh, that's amazing. And what I love about your results is that they're consistent in all areas. So Philip is sharing with you listeners with regards to success around maths area. And now I'm going to probe Philip to go into the dynamics of the 3 areas that he also specializes in. And I wonder if we can start around the book journey. So what did clients tend to come to you with as their challenges with regards to their books, that you bring something very unique to the table that actually results in them becoming a published author?
Well, there's lots of misconception being an author. Number one, you've got to have a PhD or master degree to actually write a book. One, and your English literature skills has to be phenomenal. To write a book, it may take years, decades. And also, how do I go about it? So step by step, first of all, I look at what they want to write about. So the first question I ask, first of all, is there an audience for this? Because if there isn't an audience, then you could be the most fantastic book in the world, and therefore, you have an audience of 1.
True. So
first of all, we need to establish, and what is the book is about, and what is the benefit? Because people don't buy books for you. They buy books for them. So does it serve a purpose? So I ask the questions first. Why would you actually want to build build a hotel if no one wanted to visit the hotel? So therefore we establish what actually the audience that you're going after. Is there a need for that? Once you have established that fact, then let's look at the stage 2. And the stage 2 is, what is the book about? Have you thought of a title? Let me share with you a story that's given to one of my mentors. And a long time ago, there's one of his clients came to him, and he said to him, "Can you help me write a book?" And my mentor Jerry said, "Yeah, okay, all right, well, come on my course. But what do you want to write your book about?" And this person said, "Poems." And Jerry said, "Poems? Forget it. No one's going to buy your book." So Jerry was a little bit dismissive at first, but this person was very, very insistent. Eventually, he actually got Jerry to sit down and read one of the poems to Jerry. And Jerry said, at the end of the poem, he was in tears.
Oh, wow.
And then obviously Jerry sort of changed his mind and said, "Well, there's something in here, And he asked this particular person, "What you going to call your book?" And he said, "Poems for Dads." And Jerry said, with a title like that, definitely no one will buy it.
Oh, wow.
And eventually Jerry came up with the title because during America, at that time in America, there were things happening. And the title that Jerry came out with, How Not to Be Like Michael Jackson.
Oh, that's so different.
Yeah.
That's so
Well,
different from the original one.
you
Oh.
see, the thing is, a title has to have the wow factor or catch people's attention.
Mm,
So whilst that person, a title is an obvious title, it was a very, very boring title. So
mm,
therefore, I think Amazon did some survey some time ago, and there's something like um, over a long period of time, about 20, 25-year period, the average unknown author, the average sales of their books is roughly 9 copies. I thought,
mm.
what?
Wow.
You know, so that means actually there are wonderful books that's out there, but because no one know about them, no one buys them.
Gosh.
And then actually, Jerry had another client who's actually did have a book out for over 20 years. And when he came to Jerry, and Jerry said, okay, tell me about the history. He said, well, I was this book 20 years ago. And yes, he roughly sold about 9, 10 copies in the 20 years. And then obviously, Jerry said, let me have your book. So Jerry took a look at his published book, and within about a few seconds, he said, I understand why no one would buy your book, because the title was so boring, so dull, no one even would take another, more than about 2 seconds look. So all Jerry did was actually change the title of the book and the book cover. The content remained exactly the same, not one single word changed. And over a 4-month period, he sold 20,000 copies.
That's amazing. And you know what I really love, like reflecting back to you, is I remember when Yasmin, Paolo, and Amir wrote their first books, you were kind enough to edit them for us. And when you and Trey Sean wrote your first book, you did that like in 4 hours. Like you guys sat down, mapped it out, and then the book was finished. And I thought that was remarkable. So I know that you've definitely got a very amazing way and a natural way that you do this in such an effortless flow. And you've been the book architect for so many authors that are out there in the in the personal development world. And I think that's an amazing achievement. Obviously, because they're clients of yours, you cannot divulge their names. But I think knowing that alone, that you are the reason why so many people became published authors. And these are like people that have been working on their manuscript for many years. And then, I remember you would be up and down London, all over the country, actually, having these meetings and just activating these authors. And I was just like blown away. And people in different parts of the world coming to you after years of going around the circuit and then actually getting the fruits of thy labor by just spending an afternoon with you, an hour with you, having a chat on the phone, having a Skype call. And I really thank you for being there for so many people, because it's beautiful. I remember actually, because in saying that, the first copies that Yasmin, Paolo, and Amir published, they did it under Myron, because of you, because at the time he was gifting free publishing to under 18, so it was you that actually informed us of that. And I really like that about you, Philip, because I think not everyone really talks about what you actually do under the surface, because I know that you are a networker beyond words, really, and you're always out there trying to help people piece together. Because we literally came back from Bali and wanting to publish this book, and obviously publishing several books at the same time would be quite expensive. So when you goes, oh hey, I know that you're publishing books soon, by the way, are you aware of this? And if you need a proofreader, I'll do that. And I really thank you for that. I really do. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, it's like anything in life. No man's an island, and we need a team of people to help us, because we all have different strengths. And you mentioned Myron and also Survival Laboshi, who's the joint owner, the husband and wife team, the joint owner of DVG Star. Also, I'm still working with them together, and also together we have a system that we can actually help people to get their book out within 1 month or less.
Phenomenal.
And I would say probably about 90% or more of the clients that gone through DVG, roughly about 90%, will get the book out within 1 month. That's only if they want to, because there's no compulsion. You have to get the book out. So, but obviously the other people want to take their time. That's fair enough. But about 90% of the time, we have a system now to take from start to finish. Finish editing, formatting, do the book cover, and then to get out onto the market. But also to get in the visibility. This is the thing about being visible. I'll just come back to the start. The reason I'm known now as this 10-second maths expert. There were a time, actually, I was known as the 53 minutes maths expert. Let me explain about that. And the reason is I've been a teacher for a long time. So normally when I do my stuff round to the different schools, in the lessons normally in 1 hour, 60 minutes. And people say, why do you call yourself the 53 minutes maths expert? Well, I said, I can do the work in 53 minutes, but I need 7 minutes for a cup of tea.
Oh, I like that. If listeners, if you know Philip, you'll know that he always likes to squeeze in a joke here and there. I really like that. Oh,
sorry about that. I mean, I didn't want to become a stand-up comic, but my mum said, don't do that. People will laugh at you, So.
I love that. So, Philip, the other question that's probing my mind, and I feel that might be really interesting for the listeners, is that you mentioned visibility, and I really love the fact that you actually mentor and coach clients around their branding. Why would you say it's so important for individuals, business owners, entrepreneurs to consider their branding in terms of to get them visible?
Well, I have a saying: the obvious is not obvious until it's obvious. Look on television. There's advertising going on all the time. Some years ago, Coca-Cola obviously been around for over 100 years, so it's a name. It's a very, very well-known name. And in this country, they spend roughly about over £2 million per day on advertising in the UK. And one of the executives will say, well, we've been known for over 100 years. Why are we spending all this money? So as an experiment, they actually decided to stop advertising for 2 days, just 2 days. And within those 2 days, the sales dropped down by 60%. Oh. And the moment they actually, they went, and the moment I've advertised it, they went back up again. Now, also, a couple of other very big companies that did the same thing. That been around for a long, long time, and obviously spending an incredible amount of money on advertising. And some of the bosses ask the same question. We're so well known. Why are we actually spending so much money? And I think Persil, the soap company, a long time, they also did the same thing a long, long time ago. And again, it was the same result. It went, the moment they advertised, they've gone straight back out. We're in the lockdown, so most of the fast food places that's now shut down. But if you look carefully, there are still some fast food who's still being advertised on television and say, but we can't get to it. We can't get to it. But you see, what they're doing is they're creating hunger. They're creating hunger, and because we are creatures of habit. We do say some people in the weekend they have the pizzas, the Chinese takeaway, the Indians, and so on, and that's a pattern for years. And all of a sudden, nothing. So they're creating this need and hunger. So actually, when everything is settled down and we can go back to our normal life, people can go crazy over the fast food, because they created a hunger. It's almost people who smoke and they stop smoking. There's a craving for it. So these are very psychological things they're doing. In the same way, that may be the negative side, but on the positive side, for you to be visible, so people can find you. So as I said, my training name was 53 minutes maths expert. But after a while, one of my mentors said, that's okay for the past, but times have changed. People want it now. So you're a bit out of date. So therefore, I had to sit down and say, well, what do I actually do? So when I actually look at each thing I do, then basically once I have shared technique with someone, they can actually do that in under 10 seconds. So that was rebranded the 10-second maths expert. And I'm sure that so-called fame name caught the attention of Sky TV. So one of the branding things, and besides doing the confidence alongside, where possible, I would try to help people to think about get a fame name. One of my friends who actually doing dementia, and again, she's doing a great job. She's had experience in the job, doing a great job. But again, she was just one of the many. So we actually came up with the name called the Smiling Coach. She deal with dementia.
Oh, I like that. That's lovely.
One of my other friend who's already had the fame name. She's already had this. She's got a. I don't mind showing her name. Louise K. Shaw. She's known the Body Whisperer. She is a health professional and very successful. So yeah, I'm sure Louise won't mind me mentioning that she's a great professional. So, and again, the name, she had that fame name for a long time, but she didn't use it. I said, well, that's a fantastic name to use. And also then when she started using it, she actually discovered she actually getting attention.
Yes.
So we have ideas in here, and sometimes you just need someone said to point out the obvious.
Yes.
I always say, one of my mentors said, how do you know what you don't know? And the simple answer is until someone points out to you.
True.
And psychologically, we have this thing called RAS, reticular activated system, because if someone made you aware of something, for instance, like certain type of fashion, it's been around for a long time, but someone said, "What do you see this person wearing this?" And the next week, everywhere you go, you seem to be everyone's wearing this type of fashion, or a particular brand of car or make of something. So, human beings, we do one of three things: we delete information, we distort information, and we generalize it. So there's a time and place to delete things, but at the same time, if we delete at the wrong time, then we're missing opportunities.
True.
And if we distort things, because going back to a time, actually, I'm working with a multi-billion corporation. We had the whole week of training and vetting process took a whole week. So this interview, including testing for every single day for a week. Lucky enough, that time we all got through. Normally, we're out of every 40 candidates, only maybe 2 or 3 get through. But for this particular one, every candidate got through. All 40 of us. That's never been done. And then we divide into teams. And then one of my regional manager, the first thing he said, in this organization, anyone who's actually shorter than 6 foot won't make it. And I thought, what? Did he just say that? I couldn't believe he actually said that. I thought, I'm only 5'1" or 1 meter 51. He actually said that right in front of me. I thought, well, then what's the point of me to be here? I might as well resign. But I said, stop. Don't accept that. This is the generalization. But had I accepted that generalization, I would have left that company straight away. Also, in that particular company, in order to make sure people are doing things right, they have to go with the manager for at least the first 3 months to make them competent in different areas, and then they'll sign off. In that particular company, I was the first person ever in the history over 100 years to be signed off day one.
Wow.
Because actually my technical qualification was higher than anyone in the branch.
Wow.
So therefore, after day one, I was signed off and I was free to go to see client by myself without the need of my manager, because technically I actually know what to do, and I already been through. I was headhunted from another company, so I was already doing this stuff, and also I actually knew the laws inside out.
That's amazing. That is really.
So the thing is, most people will delete, distort, generalize. And one of the things I do in terms of my confidence coaching, quite often I'm looking at what things have people delete. Is it appropriate? So sometimes it sounds very, very bad. It's almost like I got to bring the pain back. Let me just explain. It's like if you've got a splinter on your hand, you don't really want to dig that out because it's painful.
Mm-hmm.
However, but then all of a sudden that little bit of splinter kind of disable the whole of your finger, and sometimes you go in and to literally dig it out. Although you're causing a bit more pain, that pain is very temporary, and then you get the relief. So sometimes for some clients, I may have to go back to look at what they're doing to bring it back in the service and then to help them to get rid of that. Or I also have spent probably over 25 years doing emotional counseling and depressions and so on. So in those very painful situations, people have to bury certain stuff, but they're buried. They're swept under the carpet. And that's why from time to time they go through a severe depression because they haven't actually dealt with that. So one of the worst advice someone can get if you've gone through, say, divorces, trauma, abuse, bereavement, the worst advice people say, forget it. That is the worst advice. It's not, you can never forget those things, but it's learn to reframe it in a way that will empower you. So I'm talking a very general, like I'll bring it back all together. It's like I'm actually going off a tangent at the moment. I'll bring them back together. So there's lots of different aspects. Psychologically, we underrate ourselves. And also, when I actually sit down with a brand new author, I'm trying to get rid of the misconception. You need to have a PhD degree. You got to be able to perfect grammar. My English is terrible still. So, but lucky enough, I can get the book out. But lucky enough, there are people who can actually help me to actually turn my Chinese into English. And my grammar actually is non-existent. Because in Chinese there's no plural. You say one apple. So it's one apple, two apples, three apples. But in Chinese, it's one apple, two apple, three apple. So there are no plurals. And then when I first started learning English, then my teacher put S behind. And then when I got the thing, then I got like sheeps. And then all of a sudden my teacher crossed off the S. I said, hang on, but I got three sheeps. Yeah. Or transports, and I got confused. Sometimes when I don't put an S on, they put the S on, and when like sheeps and transports, then they start crossing off. But I said I was so confused. I was self-taught.
So confusing because even when you think about it, that is really confusing to go from one understanding to a completely different understanding and to merge the two. That's amazing.
Well, my English is totally self-taught. Because obviously when I first came to this country, there's very few Chinese people about. So my teachers couldn't speak Chinese, and my mum and dad was working, so by the time I actually got to school, they've already left home. So and I don't see them until late at night. So I have to find a way to teach myself English. So therefore, my English to I've got 9 books out already, and I've just finished my 10th book. And as a friend just a few days ago, we were co-written a book together. So it's taken us 2 days to actually draft the structure out now in 2 days.
That's amazing. And I guess that's some inspiration for you as a listener that, your English doesn't need to be your mother tongue. If it's a second language for you, don't let that be something that stops you from publishing a book. So thanks for sharing that, Philip.
Yes, so sometimes look at the goal, look at the outcome you want. Actually, that's another issue. I don't set goals anymore. I set outcomes because most people who set goals do not achieve it. But if you set outcomes, you don't achieve the outcome. Psychologically, you're more apt to say have another go. So I stopped this idea of we set goals. No, I set outcomes now. I do not set goals anymore. And I tell my clients, do not set goals. Because most people who set goals don't achieve it. So set outcomes. It's a little play on the word on your psychology, but it works.
True, I believe so. Yes.
So the key thing is technology. There's lots of people who can help you to overcome your shortcomings. But look at Richard Branson, very successful man. He owns a railway. He doesn't know how to drive a train. He owns an airline and he doesn't know how to fly a plane, So, but he's got the vision for his business of how to have a service that will benefit from it. So he actually then get the technician, the so-called the transactional people to actually run the business or make the things happen. He is the person with the creative idea. So as an author, you have your idea with the advice that you have got from experience and you learn from other people, You know, so there are people who can actually do the technical stuff for you.
Yes.
You know,
very true.
Therefore, you don't need to be perfect English, because there are things, technology that you could do to actually get your perfect into the perfect grammar. You could pay someone to do that.
I agree, and I really love where you're going with this, because it's like, as a listener, please tap into the essence that Philip's saying. You don't need to have all your I's dotted and your T's crossed. It's a case of, get in touch with Philip. Philip has the team that are in place that can help take you to the next step. And this is why I love coaching and mentoring. What would you say are your views around coaching and mentoring? Like, for me personally, I believe that life without coaching and mentoring is the difference between actually taking the concept from thought into a tangible product or service. What would you share around that, Philip? Like, why should the listener really be mindful of, like, how can I get a coach in my life, and what's the difference?
Well, my first attempt at writing a book was over 40 years ago. I got to, and in those days, there's no computers. I was handwritten them. I've got to chapter 1, and it's taken 40 years to get to chapter 2. And I thought, at this rate, I wanted to write 10 chapters. If I do one chapter, 40 years in one chapter, I'm going to have to be about 400 years old before I actually finish my book. So that was not, very satisfactory. Then I went on a course to get some ideas, and I thought, wow, and the person who actually helped me to actually blew away my misconceptions.
That's amazing.
So I actually paid this person quite a lot of money to get my first book, and which is good. It's great, got me started. Then I discover other people, because it's coming back to the RAS. When someone makes you aware of something, all of a sudden you start looking for things that's been around all the time, you never actually noticed before. Yeah. And I discovered there were things that I could have done for myself at no cost, or literally at a fraction of cost, instead of paying this person. However, it was important, that particular got me off step 1. My first book, it's okay, I got it out, but it didn't really get anywhere. And again, it was my luck to have to actually come across Myron and Leboshi, and with their help, my book 2 to 8 become the #1 bestseller within 5 days of publishing. Every one after that, So therefore, again, I needed the help of someone who actually could give me the visibility and the marketing, which I had no idea up to that time. Obviously, I have a lot more knowledge about marketing and also about branding. I'm just thinking, there's just over 2 years ago, a lady came to me and asked me for help with her book. We sat down in London. Our first meeting took more or less to the minute 3 hours. We started at 12 noon and we finished at 3. In that time, I nailed the title for her, and she actually came up with a better subtitle than I did. My subtitle was good, and then she came back and had a better subtitle. I thought, wow, yeah. To cut a long story short, she now have got her own publishing company, and her book actually, it will be shortly, hopefully, be actually made into a movie.
Oh wow, that's amazing!
So the transformation of actually getting that first book out has now opened so many doors you never even dream of. And there was another friend who actually I've published her book recently, probably about 6 months ago. She's now going to write her second book. She's now going to be developing a charity of her own.
Oh wow!
And there's another friend who's actually written a book, and in fact, actually her first book, well, she was written the book, but she had the events, and she said, I would love to actually get that book to this particular event, and the event was actually 4 days away.
Wow, that's amazing.
So with the help of Myron and Leboshi, we actually got her book out in 4 days.
That's amazing, absolutely amazing. So you see,
and then
go ahead, Philip. Sorry.
And then she's then written her second book, which actually the second book took 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah. However, but it wasn't the time, because again, it's not a race.
Exactly.
what's the benefit of the book to people?
Exactly.
And actually, when she had a launch there, she actually had a launch at, just round the corner from the Bank of England, and she had a number of very famous celebrity coming to actually her book launch.
That's amazing. That is amazing. See, I really love the wonderful work that you do to facilitate the success of so many people from all walks of life. And I love the fact that the book meant different things to different people at different times. So as a listener, I want you to understand is that it's not a case of, okay, but I'm writing a book in this area. It doesn't matter what book journey you're going to go on. Philip has the expertise and the team to support him to help you take it from concept to reality. And the same goes for your branding and confidence. Philip, it's actually been a delight talking to you. Is there anything in particular that you wanted to leave as a departing message for the listeners, or something that you wanted to kind of share just before we close?
Well, I say one thing that, I also work with singers, fashion models, actresses, and so on. And I did have to mention this young lady, Katie Blackwell. We met out about just over a year ago with her mum. The first time I talked to her, she was so shy. All I saw was basically there, and she wouldn't look at me, she wouldn't speak to me. But thanks to the encouragement of her mum, just like yourself, you encourage your kids. You're giving your platform for your kids to let the genius to shine. And it doesn't matter where you're as a parent. People say, I'm not good at this. Don't worry about that. Don't stop your kids. Just encourage them. Yeah. So, and Carol, you've been amazing. She is the strength for Katie, and she gave that confidence. And now Katie has, for the last 6 months, been singing everywhere.
Yeah.
She had a record release by a company in West Hollywood. And I believe then that within a very short time that the release was in Japan, and she had over 100,000 hit in one day.
Wow.
And so the Katie is now a different, she's more confident, and she's doing fantastic as well.
Wonderful.
And also there's another friend, Ali Robinson. She's given her daughter, Faith Louise Garner, the thing, and Faith actually won the Factor Essex about before last year, and she's gone from strength to strength. And there's other parents who I've known, they may not be good at a particular thing, but because they gave the confidence there, and also to then they start directing them to the mentors and so on, and that would speed up the success progress. So therefore, find yourself a mentor. You can find me on Facebook under my name, Philip Chan with 1L, or also from our joint website, the 10 Seconds to Child Genius website. And also then my other thing is www.jetsetlearning.com. So then you can actually get me or PM me if you need my help. So my clients, we tend to do that privately. And I have my longest distance, the longest client I've actually I mentored to is a young lady in South America, and she is the daughter of a very, very famous person, which I cannot disclose that. And we've been working together for 5 years now.
Amazing. That is absolutely amazing. And I guess that's to add to the list. So although the services that Philip does provide is around book mentoring and coaching, branding and confidence, the whole essence of a professional connections, that's a big part of what you do, Philip. I know that you do that a lot for a lot of people, just that interconnection. So I would highly recommend that you reach out and connect with Philip. So it may not be a case that you want to go on a course with him for, either of those free topics. It may just be a case that you may wish to invest in his professional connection packages, whereby he can help to take your business or yourself to the next level by having that key introduction to a key person or key business of influence that you've been seeking out for a long time. Philip, I really thank you. And you touched on something. So yeah, my son, Trayshawn, who's 15, he and Philip have come together to set up 10 Seconds to Child Genius. And I understand that you've put together some materials for online math training, with a workbook for children at home, because obviously the whole world is at home at the moment. So listeners, there are several facets as to why you need to connect with Philip, for a plethora of reasons, be that you're a parent, be it that you're an entrepreneur, a single person, a business person, a career person. Philip has the expertise to take you from where you are to where you desire to be. So from me, thank you so much for choosing to join us on this episode. And Philip, thank you so much for agreeing to allow me to interview you on this platform.
Well, thank you so much, Sabrina, for allowing me on, and I hope some of the information will help the listeners. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. You take care.